Today, I'm breaking down how I lit this commercial/tutorial for Adobe Lightroom. I gaffed this for my friend Connor, who is doing a DP breakdown, which I will link in the description. When you're lighting on set, there are always challenges, and this shoot was no exception. On the day, we had creative challenges and physical challenges. The interesting thing about creative challenges is that they can simultaneously be creative opportunities. Let's call them chopportunities. I would say the biggest chopportunity we started with was having a completely blank slate. We were shooting our main setup on this white cyc. I essentially had free reign to light the space. We started lighting without having a full understanding of the blocking, so I started with just coloring in the cyc to essentially create the backdrop. I put Fresnels on a couple of Aperture 600Cs and angled them at the wall. Before I even turned on the units, I knew I wanted to have some vibrant blues playing to match Lightroom's color. I quickly found a purple that matched well with the blue. We established those colors would be good for the main sequence, but we had an intro shot to do first. Once we got an idea of the blocking for that, I moved in a few more lights, starting with two Pavo Slim 120Cs here and here, as well as a couple Aperture 80Cs here and here, though those weren't playing in this opening shot. The only off-screen light playing was a 240CL off camera over here, which was just a very dim white to add a touch more detail back to the set. These two 120Cs are boomed way out because they were initially going to be more of a top light, but after seeing a blocking run through, we kind of changed our mind on that. The last detail for the opening shot were the lighting cues, which were only possible because I had wireless control of all the units over CRMX via my iPad lighting control rig, which I recently made a video about. In that video, I talked a little bit about why I wanted to build the rig, and one of the key reasons was to move quicker on set. Before I switched to this current iPad rig, I was using Sidus Link on an iPad mini, and I had a couple gaffing jobs where I found out about lighting cues on short notice and really had to sweat to figure it out. So as it goes, the note about the lighting cues for this shot didn't make it to me until a few minutes before the shot was up. But this time it wasn't a big deal, and I had some basic manual cueing ready to go in a couple minutes. From there, we moved into a couple more intro shots and the main sequence, which mostly consisted of us moving around the 120Cs. For the reverse, we also struck an 80C to give him an edge right there. It was super helpful to be running black out here because I was able to just save these levels and colors on all the units as we moved around through the different sequences. For the main sequence, we basically just gave them a soft light with the 120C panels and matched the color on those to the background 600Cs, which were set to the blue and purple shades we had landed on earlier. As is often the case, if I had more time, there's a few things I would have changed with the intro shots. To name one, I would have liked to give him a circular eye light here just because I think it would have looked better, but there would have been no way we could have afforded the time to swap in a new unit just for a 2-second shot because we were up against the clock most of the day. Time is the ever-present challenge that rules over all other challenges on set. That brings us to part 2, physical challenges. We had a couple on the day, the first being a relatively simple fix. The location had a ton of skylights with electronic blinds to cover them. Only one problem, the far back one was stuck half open. That was letting a bunch of daylight spill in and it was not helping us. So we borrowed this nifty stand from the location and we threw on a 4x4 solid. We had to really finesse it in there and kind of slide it in around the pipes, but the solid was the perfect size to cover it, so it was relatively painless. The second physical challenge took place during our second main setup, which was this workstation sequence where the photographer and intern are looking over their photos. We basically only had one option for where we could shoot this sequence, which left us backed up against this wall. We separated them from it as much as we could without creating other problems, and then we lit around that. The first thing we did was set this overhead light. I originally wanted it a bit higher above them, but Connor kind of jumped into a creative rig. You can see how I feel about the rig in this photo here. We basically justified this light as like a overhead fluorescent that you'd find hanging in an office or something like that. The colors for the backdrop are coming from a couple bounced 80Cs, with the orange going straight off the wall and the purple going into a surfer. We lit the subjects with our two 120Cs again, though we really had to dial in this one on the right. We ended up using this 2x3 solid to flag it off the wall and keep our colors vibrant. For a bit more fill on the subjects, we just bounced one of the 600Cs into the far wall. And lastly, we threw a couple Aperture MT Pros on the table as a little uplight on the laptop and cart. Now, just to quickly go over the other setup, this one was very simple. We left on the overhead from the cart setup, which is doing this down here. We spun over the 600 for this initial backlight and then threw a spotlight on the other 600 here, and then I dimmed it up. That just about does it. This was a fast-paced shoot, and there's always going to be things that you'd want to change, but I'm happy with how everything came out. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a like, consider subscribing, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.